In this lecture, we're going to follow the player's movement with the camera. There are two solutions for implementing this behavior. We can program the camera to follow the player. Alternatively, we could install Cinematic Machine. Cinematic Machine is a package by Unity for creating powerful cameras. Unlike the input system, the Cinematic Machine feature enhances the current camera. It's not a replacement. The current camera doesn't have many features for controlling it. If we want special behavior, we must program it. By using the Cinematic Machine package, we can avoid writing code. There are dozens of benefits to using Cinematic Machine. We can create cinematics, avoid objects from blocking the player, add multiple cameras, etc. It's an extremely powerful package. Like all packages, we must install it. Under the Window menu, open the Package Manager. Select the Unity registry. Next, search for a package called Cinemachine. Lastly, install it. After installation, we can begin creating a new camera. Currently, the camera in our game is using the basic camera. We should update it to use a Cinematic Machine camera. Before we do, let's organize our cameras. In the future, we're going to create cinematics with multiple cameras. At the moment, our cameras will become scattered throughout the hierarchy. To keep our project organized, let's create a game object to store all our cameras. In the hierarchy, create an empty game object. The name of this object will be called Cameras. Next, reset the transform component for this object. Afterward, select the main camera object. This object contains the original camera. Before moving it as a child of the camera's object, let's reset its transform data. Move it into the camera's object. Great! The cameras are ready. The next step is to create a virtual camera. Open the Create menu again. This time, navigate to the Cinemachine submenu. These options became available after installing Cinematic Machine. Cinematic Machine offers different types of cameras. We're going to select the Virtual Camera option. Set the name of the new object to CM Player. A few things will change in our game. Before breaking it down, let's move the object into the camera's object. Let's go through the changes one by one. Firstly, we're creating a virtual camera. Virtual cameras are the most basic cameras offered by Cinematic Machine. It's very similar to the regular camera. We can view the world of our game through this camera. For the camera's name, it's common practice to prefix the name with CM. This naming convention helps other developers identify virtual cameras. The camera we've created will follow the player. After adding this object, Unity updated the main camera object as indicated by the icon next to the name. Let's take a look at this game object. The original camera has been updated to be the brain for the Cinematic Machine virtual cameras. As stated before, it's possible to have multiple cameras in the game. Unity has no idea which camera should be prioritized. The purpose of a Cinematic Machine brain is to decide which camera should be the main virtual camera. Our new virtual camera has been set as the default camera. If we look at the game window, the game camera has been updated to view our world. Let's move the virtual camera. With the Select tool, you can move the camera to look at the player. Make sure you're moving the virtual camera and not the original camera. This process works, but there's a shortcut to getting the camera in an accurate position. Instead of moving the camera with the Move tool, we can focus the scene's camera to look at the player. I'm going to look at the player from a tilted angle. After finding a decent position, select the Virtual Camera object from the hierarchy. Next, under the Game Object menu, select the option called Align with View. This option will cause an object to have the same position and orientation as the scene's camera. After selecting this option, The game window was updated with a similar view. From here, we can refine the results. Under the Transform component, let's update the rotation. I'm not a fan of the rotation from the scene. Let's set the X rotation to 45. Next, set the Y and Z rotation to 0. These adjustments may cause the camera to not look at the player. You can freely adjust the camera with the Select tool like so. Great! I'm happy with this result. The last step is to tell the virtual camera to follow the player. Initially, the camera will be looking at the player. However, if the player moves off camera, the camera will not follow them. On this game object, a component called Virtual Camera has been added. Under the settings, there's a field called Follow. We can update this option to specify an object to follow. Let's click the button to select the player. In the search field, search for the player object. Make sure you're searching for the game object from the scene. If you were to select the player object from the Assets tab, the camera would become confused. It can only follow objects that are active in the scene. After finding the player, select it. Next, the camera may have lost focus of the player. That's perfectly fine. We can fix this issue by updating the body option. The body option will configure the algorithm of the camera for following an object. Change this option to Framing Transposer. The Framing Transposer option will draw a box with a yellow dot in the center. The yellow dot will stick to the center of the object it's following. If the player moves around the box, the algorithm attempts to realign the yellow dot with the object it's following, thus moving the camera. However, this may put the camera in an unfavorable position. Once again, we may need to adjust the distance with the Select tool. I'm going to do so quickly. It's time to test our work. Press the play button. If we move the player, the camera follows along. That's awesome. Unfortunately, the camera may have a hard time keeping up as the player is too fast. That'll be fixed in an upcoming lecture. As long as the camera is following the player, we're good to go. Without writing a single line of code, we were able to get this behavior. We haven't had the opportunity to explore the endless options offered by the Cinematic Machine package. Don't worry, once we get into creating cinematics, more options will be covered. In the next lecture, let's begin modifying the speed of the agent.